ahead and get started. We've got a nice group of people on the line. I see some names from the past, so excited to see people are coming back around and joining us again. Dale's recording this, so we're good to go. Welcome, everybody. It's February 1st, first Friday of the month for MVP Office Hours US. And today I'm joined by Dale Ziegler, who's going to run our tech and do some screen shares and things like that if needed. And I'm not sure if Jared is going to be able to join us or not, but if he does, we'll listen for his ping on in. What you're looking at, for those of you who are new to the call today, is some resourceful links that we've got here listed, some things that Salesforce puts together, the admin.salesforce.com/all-events, which is comprised of webinars, some in-person events, some circles of success, and some other things that are listed on that site. I highly recommend that everyone pop in there occasionally to see what's going on there. The webinars many times are also recorded, so you can go back and visit old events. And then we've got the customer success event calendar that Salesforce also puts out. And actually, I think I misspoke. That's where the circles of success events are logged. So check those out, see if there's something in your area, see if there's something that is virtual, gives you an opportunity to mind meld with other people in your industry or similar type services so that you can do some knowledge share. Then below that, we've got our upcoming Dreaming events, which of course are community led. We've got a couple of links here that you can check out. One is put together by Salesforce, the SF Dreamin' bit.ly. Then there's another one, the bit.ly, which is OneList. That is community sourced and goes beyond the larger regional events. If a user group leader has an event that they want to publish more broadly or wider than just the event platform in their local chatter group or Trailblazer community group, there's now a place that we can all go to register events, and anybody can check those out and access the registration through that bit.ly/OneList. We've got, this list hasn't changed, I don't think, since our last call. And thank you, Pat, for calling out that I am missing the Cal or NorCal Dreamin'. We'll add that to this list. And then at the bottom there, you've got two opportunities to participate in your community groups, either in person or virtual. Be sure that you're following the groups that you're interested in on the Trailblazer community and that you are signing up for those invitations, which come out via email through a different platform. And I've got a link there at the bottom, trailblazercommunitygroups.com/, and then you can take a look and search for groups either in your area or by industry. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for our community events. This particular call is held twice a month on the first and third Friday, so our next call will be the 15th. And this is simply a Q&A session. It's an opportunity for anybody and everybody to ask questions. There is no question that is too small, too elementary, as long as it's Salesforce related. Hopefully somebody on the line has had that experience, can either give you a solution, give you a recommendation, or refer you to somebody that they know has experience. We definitely encourage everybody to participate. This is an opportunity for you to share your input and recommendations. I think everybody is probably already on mute. If not, go ahead and mute yourself just so we don't have any background noise. And to ask a question, you can do one of two things. You can either raise your hand in the chat, or if we've got some dead air, you can just simply unmute yourself and speak up. And because this is virtual, if you announce yourself, that will help us start to recognize voices and put them to names. You are also welcome to use the chat to post resources or links, say hello, what have you, and we will grab those links and put them in this deck as well. And then the last thing is you do have the opportunity to share your screen. I just caution you to make sure that you're not sharing anything that is confidential or proprietary or client information. So make sure you're logged into a dev.org or a sandbox. This call is definitely being recorded. It'll be posted out to YouTube, and we do have a a YouTube channel, and it'll be posted to Twitter as well. We've got a couple of our favorite hashtags that we like to use, problem solve together, because again, this is all about community. And there was one that came up, I think Pat brought this up a couple calls ago, community learner, and I really like that one because that's how we're all learning. So, okay, we can go to the next screen now.
So
Dale.
just super quick, I wasn't quick enough on the trigger. There's
Yes.
the MVP office hours in YouTube, if you can still see that.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. You can subscribe to that so that you always know when the latest and greatest has been posted.
All right.
Okay.
I can only click so quickly. There we go.
Yes, good job. Thank you. I appreciate it. So for those of you who are new, just a quick shout out. We do have global MVP office hours. We've got a group that meets in EMEA and APAC, and then we also, those are both in English. And then we also have MVP office hours Portuguese, which is held the last Thursday of the month, and Carlos does a fantastic job of translating, so you do not have to know Portuguese to join in and participate. They appreciate anybody who logs in to help out and answer questions and what have you. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and open up the floor to, let's start with Marty. Marty's got her hand up. Marty, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So my question today is, I'm helping someone out with their instance because their admin is on maternity leave and they have a wide variety of miscellaneous custom things. I have a global action for new case, but it is not appearing. Thoughts that I can look at is to make it appear?
Global action that's not appearing on your page layout. Have you, is it been added to the Lightning, what am I trying to think? The page layout, the Lightning page layout in the Classic?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess let's just make absolutely sure we clarify here. The Lightning page or the page layout?
So, and good question. So I'm trying to add it to so the customer is mostly in Classic, but I've created what I'm doing for them is adding a partner community, which therefore is in Lightning. But even if I go into Lightning and click on the plus sign to look at global actions, it's not there either. So I'm at the very top of the page, and I click that plus sign for global actions, and new case isn't there.
Are you positive that the profile, the pages are aligned with the correct profiles?
Frankly, I'm not positive of anything at this moment, but
Gotcha. And Joy threw a question in the chat also, is this console or a regular app layout?
So no matter where I am, it's not appearing for me, even as the admin. So if I solve that problem, I'll solve my partner community problem. And interestingly, I have, let's say, multiple dev orgs. So it's when I see it in as new case in one dev org, but it's not in the other either. So there's something that I'm missing that I just need to go check for.
You know you have to add the action in a separate spot for Lightning other than where you add it for Classic,
yes,
right?
and I've customized it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else, please feel free. I'll monitor the chat. Thank you very much.
One other suggestion, see if it's using a master record type. Because if even you as an admin have are you using record types?
Yes, there's 2 record types, and as the admin, I have access to both.
So if the quick action is using the master record type, then you won't have access to that even as the admin, and it won't show the quick action.
Perfect. I'll bet that's it. Thank you so much. I'll bet that's it. I'm going to check that right now. Thank you. And yes, I'm clear it is global, not record. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hopefully that helps.
All right. Good question to kick us off. Thanks, Marty. Thank you for those who chimed in. John's got a question. John Knight.
I would love to get some additional eyes on the super badge error I'm stuck on, just in case I'm missing anything. We were chatting a little bit about that at the front end of the call.
Sure. Do you want to share your screen?
Yep, I just cleared it out. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, sweet.
Screen to share. Are you seeing
Yes.
beautiful red banner?
It is
Okay,
beautiful.
so it says not sorting by the correct field. To start with the requirements, so this is the one I'm on, my top volunteer organizations. It says sort high to low by hours. Details aren't necessary. So on this report, I've got the grouping for volunteer organization, sort by, I was playing
Show
around with
detail.
this last night, everything.
Can you
You want me to show detail rows?
Yes. Can you then sort on the shift hour column?
Yes. Like this.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I save and run, oh yes, it doesn't want me to actually show details, so I gotta switch that back off.
So the first error said sort on, essentially said sort on details. The second error says don't show details.
Yes, which is a little confusing, and from the Googling I was doing, it doesn't care if you sort or doesn't want you to sort by the actual detail. It wants you to sort by the grouping. But just to try it, because nothing I've tried has worked yet, we'll turn the details back off, having sorted. And then it still says it's not sorting.
I
So
would just
yes,
I would just like to let the record show that we are 12 minutes into this recording, which we are recording and putting on YouTube. If we need to send this back to the Trailhead team and this is what we say, this isn't working.
yes, that will be handy. I have opened a case with them, so I will reference this.
Mark the video at 12 minutes in.
Christina here. When you sorted by the grouping, and then you showed the details and you sorted. Sort by the grouping again and save. Okay, so that is still checked.
It is still checked.
Hmm.
I've tried ascending and descending and every sort by I can think of.
Even if you said sort by the what was the other one? Volunteer organization?
I did try that just for the sake of trying everything I can think of.
If I create and I'm just reading it word for word. You've created the 5 reports. You've created the dashboard.
I did do all of that, and then I actually deleted all of it with the record types and started over in case I had missed something. So I haven't recreated the dashboard. But I was getting the same error even after I fully had built all the reports and the dashboard. And then I worked through this one step by step, hitting check challenge every time, and it got all of the other steps correct. Like it said, record type or custom report type not found, report not found, report doesn't have correct columns, doesn't report showing details. Then I get to this one and can't get past.
Are you positive? Because obviously changing this report has changed the error message that you
Yes.
get. So clearly that's where it is. Do you just need to throw the kitchen sink at it, put all the columns in the report? And sort, check.
Hopefully not, because there's a lot of columns available.
No, I know. I hear you. Hopefully not.
But
that's very peculiar, though, that that's where the error message is changing. Because it's saying don't show details, but you're sorting on the wrong column.
yes.
Are we?
Sorry, I've been Googling this. I see in one of those threads here, someone was having a problem, and someone said change to classic.
Yes, I've got Classic pulled up.
Do it in classic. Do it in classic instead of in Lightning, and then they passed. I don't know if that's one of those. Shouldn't work, but
I have tried. Let's just do that one again for the recording. So now I'm in Classic. We are not showing details. We are sorting groups by sum of shift hours descending.
refresh.
I recall this step on this badge took me probably the longest time of the super badge. And I'm just trying to recollect my notes to see what was I changing there. I do have some notes on this, and I'm trying to find, I definitely have an org that's live and working and passes that step, but I need to look it up. So I'm going to try it right now and see if I could find some kind of answer.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
The Google Doc or the Google link that you found, was it the Classic Report Builder or was it Classic?
Let me see what it says here.
Do I have to switch entirely to Classic?
How old is this super badge? Just trying to, the lines in the sand of when things were created, including the trailhead content. Is there any possibility that this was built with Salesforce, or this wasn't entirely Lightning driven when they wrote the trailhead content?
When this came out, Salesforce Lightning Reports was still in beta.
Okay. So that would give some credence to the Classic Report Builder, but what about Classic in general? I don't know entirely how Classic as a UI versus the Classic Report Builder, how they're coupled or decoupled from each other, but give it a whirl.
There's a couple comments in the chat too, if you want to take a look at that and see if you haven't already done these things. Pat dropped a link too for the thing he was gonna.
Yeah, in Classic.
Although John's showing his screen, so I can't show it, but I'll read through it.
See, so summary.
Which reporter are you having issues with?
My top volunteer organizations.
Okay. Come on. My top volunteer. Now I need to create reports. My top is not sorting by the correct field. What is wrong with my settings? It's about halfway down the page. Group it by volunteer organization, which you have done. Sort descending by shift hours. Don't show details. Create some records that will meet reports criteria.
Is it supposed to be some? Does that make a difference?
Well, and that's what we looked at earlier, was show the details and then sort on hours, and you still got the error message. What you're sorting on now is some shift hours.
Yes. Which shift hours is still sorted if I show that field.
Okay. And then,
but if I show that field, then it says details aren't supposed to be shown.
You need to summarize. Oh, somebody had a typo here. You need to summarize by shift hours, not something else hours. Recording. You can go look at the link, and I'm not making that up. Report type, volunteer reports, filter settings and properties, my top volunteer organizations, underscores, report descriptions as my top volunteer descriptions, being saved in the volunteer reports folder. What is wrong? Everything looks good.
I wonder if I'm missing a description. Does it say there it needs to be a description?
So okay. The reason is mistake of sort setting place. I sorted on field shift hours when detail was showing, but first we need to set show off detail and then set sorting as follows. So, so don't show detail, and then click on, so on shift hours, hold on. So sort the group by. So click next to volunteer opportunities, pull, sort group by sum of shift hours. It's descending, another way, down facing and following arrow right. So this got past what you've done here, if you save and run, got past that error, but then says he's experiencing filter errors. So yeah, it would at least say you're sorting on the right thing.
So I think there's a column issues there, right? So the volunteer organization that was supposed to be sorted by, but then the next field I think is not the right field. I think it's supposed to be sum of the volunteer hours, and I don't remember what field was there. Shift hours. So it is supposed to be summarized as a sum of volunteer hours and the record count. That's what I have on my report. Just looking at it right now.
What is
have fallen?
What is has it finished trying to check?
No.
But,
that might be a good sign. Maybe it passed and it's going further through the check. If it's taking this long.
Mm-hmm.
If it does pass, I'm gonna rewatch this video 20 times to figure out what I did differently.
I'll have it on YouTube by tonight. Well, so there's that. Time out.
I've never seen
okay, wait. An unhandled exception. That means you're getting into process now, which is good. You got past the reporting side of things.
Did it?
I think. Unhandled exception is generally a flow or process builder. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I give up.
Okay, well, we don't have to use the whole call for this. I was just wanting to make sure I'm not blind or missing something obvious here.
Definitely copy the link that Pat put in there from developer. Because, I mean, it's a pretty long article of this gentleman trying to step through this exact same issue. So definitely take that link.
Yes. Let's see.
If I could jump in here really quick, could I ask do you have the right column? I feel like I worked on this too and I was using the wrong column the whole time. I mean, they're looking for the shift hours, if I remember this app, it's been a while, had to do with the number of shifts available, but not what were worked. And the actual volunteer hours is what's been assigned and applied. Do you have the right column to begin with?
So based on some of the older threads I was reading, I think they changed the super badge a little because they don't have any remaining of shift hour needed. There was a formula field that was referenced on some of the older threads that didn't exist in this one. I
only asked because the shift hours has to do with the number of shift hours that are available, but not how many have been confirmed, which is how the volunteers tie back. That's why I'm wondering if you're targeting the wrong column entirely, not about what you're sorting, but Like, do you have to bring in the child records of the volunteers to say how many hours actually were worked and not the total shift hours?
Volunteers.
And hey, Stuart, whenever you want to unmute, I want to unpack your question because I bet there's value in it. When did you start this super badge? Stu, you there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
I have a feeling I know where your head is, but can you unpack that a little bit?
So, yeah. Because I know the first thing that, or one of the things that the Trailhead team might say to this is, or might ask is, when did you create your dev environment or your sandbox to start this super badge? Because they're to go to the end, they might say, rebuild your sandbox. And I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just wondering if say you started this super badge like 3 months ago and now are just getting around to finishing it, that's a different scenario than, no, I just started it yesterday and I'm trying to get it finished and I'm running into this error. So
let me throw a hypothetical.
Trying to set that framework.
What's the easiest way to check that when I spun up this org?
Go to, so if you go to company information in setup, so Stuart, I think possibly something to extend onto your point is keep in mind, we are in a transition period between releases.
Yeah.
We are in new APIs. We are in new everything.
That's true. So we are going to a new spring release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to see the age of your org, go to company information.
Mm-hmm.
I created this one probably to try to get ahead of lightning, to be honest, looking at the date stamp. But but
yep. So I created it on January 16th of this year.
There's a very real if you created it on January 16th, there's a very real possibility that you're on spring. Or can you tell if you're on spring or on winter?
Let's see, if I go to Lightning and refresh, I should see what logo it does. That's the lazy way. I'm on winter. Still got the snowboarding.
Would there be any possibility, and this is for the recording if Trailhead watches it, would there be any possibility that Trailhead's APIs would be looking at spring and not winter and causing issues with small things like what reports can and can't do?
They did make a lot of changes to reporting.
I don't want you to have to pause when you're trying to work through a super badge because that's a huge accomplishment. There's a small part of me that might advise you wait until after next weekend.
I think that's probably going to be the answer, and it'll probably take them that long to get back to me anyways.
Yeah, I mean, this could be.
I wasn't thinking of the spring release. I was just thinking that there have been super badges where, honestly, I started 6 months ago thinking, oh, hey, I'm going to get this this super badge, and then left it. And then 6 months later, I thought, oh, I was going to do that super badge and ran into problems. And then I was like, why am I having problems? And I reached out to support, and they said, tell me again, what are you trying to do? And I explained to them. They said, no. Start over again, because your org is now, 2 versions behind. Why don't you just get a fresh org and redo the super badge? We know it's a pain. We know you have to, redo it, but at least you're going to start out with a fresh framework.
So,
well, and I've noticed they changed the requirements of the super badge over time as well.
They do change some steps sometimes and make some corrections based on feedback. Like when we do super badge, and sometimes I send them feedback and they will come back and correct it. And I do I don't know who was speaking here, a number of super badges, like I did most of them, and a number of them I actually had to do exactly that same thing. I would start it, and then for work or other reasons, I have to leave it off. And then when I get back to it, it just doesn't work. Even my last step wouldn't work appropriately. So I would just basically start a new Trailhead playground and like redo it all from the beginning. It'll make it more sense.
So, asking for a friend whose name is also Dale Ziegler, if he, we'll say he and not I, started his super badge over 2 years ago and hasn't picked it up again, he should probably just start all over again with a fresh org, is what everybody is saying. And not even try to pick up where he left off.
It's the old turn it off, turn it back on scenario.
Well, he says thank you for the guidance. I'll pass that along to him.
Yeah, I think this is alluding to something, maybe it was Igor that said before. The thread that Igor had there says that the field to be sorted should not be the summed field. It should be done from the list of available fields under the organization.
Which is super weird because this is how this gentleman was able to fix, was by sorting by the summed field.
Yeah. I don't know. This post was April 18, so less than a year ago.
Well, thanks everyone for looking at it. I will definitely hear back from them and start over if I can't get anything moving that way.
And like I said, we're going to have this recording up this weekend on YouTube, so use it. I mean, this is great replication for them to look at and possibly help dive into.
Absolutely.
Great dialogue there, everyone. Thank you. I learned some stuff about playgrounds that I didn't know, so it's good. All right, who else has a question? Or a topic?
I've now been to 3 different presentations on Lightning Web Components. If anybody has any questions, I don't really understand, but I know where to get started.
I have a question on Lightning Web Components related to that. Is that does anybody have any insights in terms of Salesforce's direction with that? Because they've obviously invested enough time and effort into building their Aura Lightning components. Now they're switching to web components. Does that mean the entire Lightning platform will be, I mean, they'll probably support it, obviously, but their own platform, would that move on to a completely Lightning Web Components now to be faster and better?
Yes.
Or are they going to keep it as it is?
No, yes. In fact, a lot of it, for the last 2 years, they've already been converting everything over to Lightning Web Components. So a lot of the Aura, if you've been using base components to build things in Aura, under the covers, they're actually running as Lightning Web Components, which are faster. This is the messaging from Salesforce. I'm not a Salesforce guy, but the messaging from Salesforce is that basically they have milked Aura for all the performance they can get. It was when they started moving to Lightning, they needed a framework because the base capabilities of browsers and of JavaScript were such that you needed a framework to be able to handle things on top of that. In the 3 or 4 years since they started building it and decided on Aura, in the 3 or 4 years since then, the browsers have advanced considerably. JavaScript, or what they call ECMAScript, ES6, has advanced to the point where it can do so much more standard built in that they don't have to handle in Aura components. And so it gives them the flexibility to jump over and sort of Lightning Web Components is more of an open framework. I guess, I mean, I'm not a front-end developer, but I guess other developers that come from other web development will look at Lightning Web Components and will immediately get it and say, oh, okay, this is a little bit different, but yeah, I get how this is all working. It's much more standard. The bundle is much more typical. It's a HTML file, a CSS file, a JavaScript file, you know, and you just go from there. So yes, they are moving completely to Lightning Web Components, and in everything that they talk about and encourage will be around that. They're not abandoning Aura. Aura still works. It is interoperable with Lightning Web Components. In fact, some things on the Lightning Web Components, they haven't covered all of the capabilities that Aura can do. So some things you still have to sort of wrap it in a Aura container, but they work side by side. You can message back and forth between them. The only thing is you can't contain an Aura component in a Lightning Web component, but you can do it the other way around. So you can have an Aura wrapper that's got a Lightning Web component inside of it.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I've actually tried to wrap those as what you described in some of my sample apps to try out some of these components. I've built a few apps on Lightning Web components in the last few weeks.
Cool. Did you go on? Yeah. Did you go on the GitHub and
Yes.
and pull that the recipes?
Yes. Yeah.
Is so well done. Really, really well done.
Recipes are awesome.
The recipes are amazing. In fact, once you've got it in your own Scratch org, you can start hacking around and adding your own to them. And you know, my only frustration there is that the Scratch org is going to expire in 30 days. So you know.
Well, that's not a. I mean, once you have it in GitHub, then you can push it. I have several apps like this in my GitHub that are some of them public, some of them private, that I share to different people. And so that is very easy. When my org expires, I just simply get a new Scratch org and push the code, and it just works.
Yeah.
So I also have them wrapped into packages, so that actually makes it easy for admins or somebody to just click a button on my GitHub and install it on their org. It's just a convenience thing, but that's just for people who want to try out some of these apps running on Lightning Web components. And also they provide some functionality that don't exist in Salesforce right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so I'm an App Exchange partner. I've got an app that's all built in Aura. And I'm looking at now I'm evolving my product and adding more capabilities. And so I'll build the new capabilities in Lightning Web components. And I suspect over time I'll go back and do some conversion on it just to sort of get it into a consistent code base. But it's definitely, if you consider yourself a technology leader, this is the direction they're going. You might as well embrace it and jump on board.
So for those of us who are not developer minded, can somebody give us a good use case or example of what a Lightning web component is and what you would use it for, and how an admin would use one?
All of Lightning Web components is simply a change in the way that the code is written in them. For admins, there is no impact. For users, there is no impact.
So if we think of a Lightning web or a Lightning page, what would be on a Lightning page that would be a web?
No, you would not know the difference from let's say if you're working from an app builder or from a community builder, right? Some of my components work on both, and so you just see Lightning components, and when you drag and drop it in your work area, it'll just show up like a Lightning component. And then if they're built certain way with Lightning design system, then there would be no difference. I mean, it wouldn't be able to know the difference unless you look in the code inside, see what's running behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, this is really isolated. I think that this big shift is isolated pretty much to developers. It's not at all like the classic to Lightning shift that affected users and admins and everybody. This is what this does is it plays on what one person said in the presentation is they basically had wrung all of the performance out of Aura that they could, and by doing this, by opening it up, they're sort of going more with the industry standards. And so as those industry standards improve, so will the performance and capabilities of Lightning Web components. And it also makes it easier to import into it sort of non-proprietary libraries that are out there and available, you know, mapping libraries or graphing libraries that are in JavaScript. And all you have to do is download it, stick it in your static resource, and import it into your component, and it's there as is.
Great. Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else have a question or a topic? Anything that they've learned this week that they want to share?
By the way, one other thing I'll mention about Lightning Web Components, for any admins that are sort of code friendly, that they still consider themselves admins, but they'll go ahead and they'll write a Visualforce page. The new Lightning Web Components is going to make that easier. It should be more approachable for admins, because in some ways the way that Lightning Web Components access data from the server are kind of akin to how easy it was with Visualforce pages, where you could just basically bind to values on the server and you didn't have to write Apex.
Well, that has to do with the data services that provided similar thing that they have in Aura components, but they just revamped that for the web components so that there's a data service without Apex, so you get access to those standard functionalities like standard controllers. That still exists for Aura components too, but it's like I feel that's a lot more work to do in Aura components, in web components, a little bit cleaner. That's how I look at it.
Right. And what you're writing is even easier than Visualforce because it's a standard HTML page and very little code in the JavaScript.
Yeah, but I would still, if I was an admin and I was kind of dabbling in code, if I wanted to do Lightning Web Components, I'll definitely have to invest some time in learning JavaScript, learning closures, learning how the methods invocation works, and some of the details of code, how it's structured of a modern ECMA 6 standard to be able to actually tackle web components well. And CSS too, to some degree. If you have to do some things with CSS, you may not need to, but that's will be the two skills that would be necessary to pick up. For web developer, obviously, it would be easy. But for an admin or backend developer, that could be some learning curve.
All right, thank you for that, Igor. Marty's got her hand up.
Thank you. Since no one else has another question, this is the same customer I referred to before, and it's one of those, oh, I think we forgot to tell you this. So when they're entering a field on this custom object, it's a lookup to another custom object, and it needs to be all uppercase. And when I look at the other custom object on that field, it says unique case sensitive, even though when I click on the field, it doesn't say case sensitive. But my real question is, so on the entering for the customer, what's the best way to force or make uppercase?
Oh. Okay. Let me make sure I understand that. You have two custom objects related to each other, so a parent and a child. Yes?
Yes.
The field on the parent object is what is case sensitive? Or no?
The field that the field that is being looked up on the parent object is case sensitive, yes.
Okay, so then the issue on the child object is, or what you're trying to do is make it all uppercase?
Yes, so when somebody is entering that field on the child, if they enter lowercase, it does not match.
So how do you force it, is what you're saying, to be
Correct.
uppercase?
Yep.
There is an upper function. Well, and I may be talking Excel. I'm thinking there's an
No,
upper function.
There is, and you are correct. I looked this up.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I?
Yeah, I think the way I would do it is you've got an input field, take the input however they take it, and then have create a formula field on there that does whatever string function you need to, like making it uppercase, yep, or trimming the spaces off the ends, or make it title case, or I don't know what it is you're trying to match, but yeah, I would create a second field that basically has a formula on it that processes the input field.
Okay.
Well, I guess what I was going to ask before you go into creating additional metadata for one unique use case is, can a workflow field update or process builder update the field that actually triggered the update. So if you put in all lowercase ABC on the field, the change to that field is what wakes up the process automation, which is a field update to itself of upper, it's a formula field of upper it instead of creating a second field. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Okay. Yes, that
Curious, are you in Lightning or Classic?
Lightning.
And so you would just be creating a child object, and you're saying when you do the lookup, it's not recognizing. So in Classic, I remember I could type MVP office hours and not click anything, and it would match to MVP office hours because it knew what it was. But in Lightning, I still have to make the selection in either the drop-down box or hit the lookup to actually get it to match. So I don't feel like you should have to do anything. We might just need to direct them to either click below on that selection that comes up, or click the actual lookup to get it to pull up. It should still match.
Well, so let's back up here. What is the actual requirement to?
It has to find the field in the other object.
So what I'm hearing is that you typing in a search, and the search might be uppercase, lowercase mixture or something like that, or lowercase, and then you're not finding that in a lookup, which means, like, for example, from account, you try to find a contact, and the contact doesn't come up unless you type in exact correct case. Is that what's happening?
Right. If they're looking up ABC, if they type
So
in ABC, it doesn't match.
That must be something that Lightning Search have introduced, because for Apex point of view, that's kind of doesn't matter. They could find it either way. It's case insensitive. But so they ultimately somewhere under the covers, they are calling some standard component or something in Apex or Java that will do a search and will find that information. But must be something happening where it's either masking it or passing it some kind of a string that's encoded in a way that it's not finding.
Yeah, and that's
some type of front end thing, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and that's where I was curious, because as I said, when I look at the field in the object in Lightning, it says unique case sensitive. Yet when I look at and click on it, the case sensitive checkbox is not checked, which I find interesting. So I wonder if that's
So hold on. Okay, so you're saying, let's walk through this. Custom object. Yes.
Yes.
You're creating a new field.
Well, no, the field's already there.
Okay, the field's already there, but you're saying it had been created with case sensitive and it's ending up not case sensitive.
Correct. So if you just click on Object Manager and look and click on Fields, and it has all the definitions here. I'm going to click on any object it might have. I can't show you because it's a customer thing. If you click on anything on there, and now click on so here it'll say unique. It says unique case sensitive. Yet when I click on the individual field, so here it says lookup account, etc. So
yeah, but I think you're confusing settings. The unique case sensitive setting, just when you're comparing for the field has to be unique, it compares case sensitivity to each other versus not. It doesn't affect the search.
Okay.
Right, so like little ABC and big ABC, if you make it unique case sensitive, it'll find those as not as unique.
Right.
If you don't turn it on, right? But the search doesn't care about that. The search engine itself is, I think, designed to not be case sensitive by design. I don't think you can change that.
Okay.
Right. And Carrie, just again, are you working standard Salesforce, or is it a Visual Force page or something custom?
Nope, standard Salesforce. I'm not.
Okay. I would probably work with the user. I would bet, because remember, when you type the letters, you can't do it like in Classic where you just type it and save. You have to actually make that selection or do a full lookup for it. So I would bet that they're not making a good selection.
Okay, I'll bet you're right. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, and also when you're doing a lookup, you're looking at the name field of the object, which I don't think you can toggle case sensitive or not, unless I'm mistaken. So that might be another point of confusion to try to clarify.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, I think Michael Lupino has a question. Michael, I'm going to try and unmute you on my side. Let me see if I can find you here. He's having trouble taking himself off mute. Oh, maybe he's left us. Oh, no, there you are. Here we go. Michael, can you hear me?
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad I figured that out. I couldn't find the button. So the question I have today is, I've been doing a lot more work with doing deployments over API or the metadata API. And I've seen this message come up as component errors. And it says something like this: to help you complete this action, we've queued up a background process. Try again in 3 to 4 hours. And if you can't complete this action, contact Salesforce customer support. Has anyone seen that message before? And what exactly is it alluding to? In this case, it was a custom field that it was showing the message on, but I've seen it come up in other component types.
What did the message say again?
What deployment tool are you using?
Yeah, to help. Oh, it's a tool called Flowsum. It's an app exchange partner of Salesforce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a custom tool, custom app or service that they have, and I'm familiar with that a little bit. It's a very interesting solution to deployments. They give you an org, and it's all written in Apex, and the deployments happen via metadata API. So that's I think it's more on them how they do it. But that message sounds to me like there is an issue in some of the components. I think I've seen something like this before when I deployed with like Ant in the past. But that's like a rare occasion. Normally, what happens is when you try to do a deployment which is very large, Salesforce doesn't. It doesn't do it like real time. What happens is you actually pushing this whole zip file. Essentially, what your metadata is gets zipped up, pushed up to the server, and then it sits there, waits for processing. And that's where your Ant would start kind of queuing it up, and it will. The Ant has a built-in mechanism of polling, and it will sit there and poll and tell you, oh, we're still processing. Sometimes it tells you, oh, it timed out, but your thing might succeed later on, but it may time out on your end, depending on what the settings are. Like there's a setting you could set on the deployment, what the timeout limit is, right, on the metadata API, right? And so sometimes I reach that limit and it will time out, but then when I look in the metadata, actually it all made it later on. So it's possible that you having an issue with some component that causing a problem, but the timeout, it sounds like it's normal, right? As long as you can do a deployment. Now the problem is why it takes so long. I don't know. I mean, if you're pushing one field, it doesn't sound it should be waiting that long. So that's
I was going to say, it's probably, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm looking at the log over here. I think I've seen it when I'm pushing multiple things, and I think you hit the nail on the head in saying it could be something else, because I've seen the error happen, and then I've seen something else error, and when I clean up the other error, go back to developers and re-push this branch again, and it just works. So it might be being held up due to something else you just said, that it could be another component type.
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to just say, this is Stuart. I've seen that with change sets as well. Of you set a outbound change set, and then you pull it into your production org. You'll get an email from Salesforce saying, congratulations, your change set has been put in. But you go to look at it and it's not there. It's not there for, I've waited up to an hour or two, and it's simply not there, even though Salesforce says, "Yep, congratulations, it's there." It's still not there. So there can be timing issues with that sort of thing of deploying things even in change sets.
Okay.
And not to be worst case scenario, but I have had to actually open cases with Salesforce support because it took a week and I still hadn't seen anything, and because it just got lost in the ether. I got the email notification that Stuart talked about. It never showed up. It hung up for forever.
Yeah, so
wow.
Metadata API is, so they call it a metadata API, but realistically, when I look at an API, I expect to make a call somewhere on some kind of web endpoint and receive some type of response, and it's done, right? Now, in metadata API, I'm making a call to post this giant zip file out there. So it's really a file mover API. And then I can have to go and pull that other API, other endpoint to say, hey, is my job completed? Is my job completed or not? Or I'll get some kind of an error notification on an email saying, hey, you failed here or something like that. So, and because it's queued up like this, I mean, obviously millions of people maybe pushing and deploying it, they have to do some kind of scheduling of these batches. And so that's probably where you might be hitting some of the timeout issues that may cause these errors.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do see that on the Flowsum side after I do the push. It says the job's in progress. When it completes the job, it says to complete. But I do see those statuses. At least it tries to report back.
Yeah, well, with Flosum,
and I watch the status monitor. So.
Yeah, with Flosum, I would also err side of caution, because Flosum, you have to remember, they run their jobs, their deployments. Unlike me, I'm running it on some server or some computer, or maybe Jenkins running it for me, this Ant job or this Salesforce DX job, right? They're running this inside Salesforce org. They're not running it outside. They have another org that they have provisioned outside of your org, which actually handles your metadata. Right. So now they effectively are bounded by the same limitations, the same limits of which you are bound by governor limits. And so they probably have their own issues with running some of these batches and batch apexes and internal problems that they have to work through or work around in their deployment tool. So that could be another layer of complexity.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we are at 2 minutes to the hour, and I know Dale's got a hard stop. Is there another quick question that we can take, or shall we call this a day? This was some great dialogue, very interesting questions. Learned a lot. I hope you all did too. We will go ahead and post this recording along with, we'll post it in Twitter too, along with all of these links that everyone shared. So I think with that, have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you on the third Friday of the month, which is February 15th. Don't forget, Valentine's Day is 14th. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, Dale. Thank you for running tech. Appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jackie.
All right, take care, all.
Thank you.